I was sitting with a friend of mine. We were talking about life, success, and all the ways we can either push ourselves forward or, without realizing it, hold ourselves back. He said to me, "Jim, I don't understand. I'm a nice guy. I try to help everyone. I never say no. But somehow, I'm not where I want to be. People walk over me. Opportunities slip away, and my success is stuck in neutral." I could see the frustration on his face, but more importantly, I saw the problem. It's a problem that many of us face, and it's this: being too nice. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be kind, generous, or respectful. In fact, these qualities are crucial. But being too nice, in the wrong way, for the wrong reasons, and without boundaries, can hold you back from success. Here's why. It will kill your success. I know about 5 ways that this can happen to you that I want to talk about. Maybe you have more, but here it is. One way being too nice will destroy success is this: you become a people pleaser. You see, when you're too nice, your focus shifts. You're no longer chasing your dreams. You're chasing approval. Instead of making decisions that align with your goals, you start making decisions that align with what will keep everyone happy. You start saying yes to every request, every demand, every favor, thinking that by pleasing others, somehow you'll win. But here's what happens. When you're constantly trying to please everyone, you start to lose yourself. You lose your voice. You lose your priorities. You lose your time. Think about it. Have you ever said yes to something that you didn't really want to do? You agreed because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. Or maybe you were worried about what they'd think if you said no. But what happens when you keep doing that? You find yourself running around, handling everyone else's business, while your own life, your own goals are left unattended. You might think you're being helpful, but all you're doing is delaying your success. People who are too nice often forget that success requires focus. And focus means learning the power of saying no. No to distractions. No to demands that don't serve your purpose. No to constantly bending and reshaping yourself to fit the expectations of others. If you're always saying yes, if you're always putting other people's needs ahead of your own, how are you supposed to reach your goals? How are you supposed to grow and develop if all your energy is spent trying to keep the peace? The reality is, you can't. Here's another way being too nice will destroy success. When you allow people to take advantage of you. You see, there's this idea that being nice will lead to good things. And sure, sometimes it does. But there are also people out there who will see your kindness and think of it as weakness. They will see that you're willing to give, to accommodate, to compromise, and they'll exploit it. They'll take more than you're willing to give. And because you're too nice, you'll keep letting them. Before you know it, you're overworked, underappreciated, and drained emotionally, mentally, and physically. Now, some people might say, "Jim, isn't it good to help others? Isn't it good to be generous with your time and energy?" And the answer is yes, but within limits. You see, there's a difference between being helpful and being used. If you're too nice, you're not drawing the line between those two things. And when there's no line, people will cross it again and again. Success requires boundaries. It requires knowing when to say, enough is enough. It requires knowing your worth. If you're giving and giving and giving, but never standing up for yourself, how can you expect to succeed? How can you expect to have the energy and the resources left to pursue your own dreams if you've spent it all trying to help others who don't appreciate it? It's important to remember, not everyone has your best interests at heart. Some people only care about what they can get from you. And if you're too nice, if you're afraid of offending them, you'll keep letting them take. There's a great quote that says, "You teach people how to treat you." If you don't set boundaries, if you don't stand up for yourself, you're teaching others that it's okay to take advantage of you. You're teaching them that your time, your energy, your resources don't matter. And when that happens, you're not only losing your chance at success, you're losing your sense of self. Here's another one. Being too nice can lead to indecision. You see, when you're constantly trying to make everyone happy, it becomes hard to make decisions. You start second-guessing yourself. What will they think if I choose this path? Will they be upset if I go this direction? You become paralyzed by the fear of disappointing someone, of causing conflict, or of being seen as selfish. So what do? You put off making decisions. You delay, you procrastinate. You wait for some magical moment when everything will line up perfectly and no one will be upset. But here's the truth. That moment never comes. And in the meantime, opportunities are passing you by. Opportunities that could move you forward, that could lead to your success, are slipping through your fingers because you're too busy worrying about what others will think. You've heard me say it before. Indecision is the thief of opportunity. And it's true. Every time you hesitate, every time you put off a decision because you're afraid of ruffling feathers, you're losing ground. Success doesn't come to those who wait for everyone's approval. It comes to those who are decisive, who know what they want, and who are willing to go after it, even if it means making tough choices. Being too nice often means you're afraid of making those tough choices. You want to keep everyone happy, and in doing so, you make yourself unhappy. You hold yourself back from making the decisions that could propel you forward because you're too worried about causing discomfort. Now, I'm not saying you should be reckless or ignore the feelings of others entirely, but there's a balance. You need to be able to weigh your options, make a decision, and move forward without constantly worrying about how others will react. If you spend your life trying to avoid conflict or discomfort, you'll never make the bold decisions that lead to success. And remember, success is often uncomfortable. It requires stepping outside your comfort zone, taking risks, and sometimes it means disappointing people. That's just part of the journey. So, what do? How do you stop being too nice and start moving towards success? It starts with self-awareness. You need to recognize when your desire to be liked, to be nice, is holding you back. You need to understand that saying no, setting boundaries, making decisions that align with your goals, these are not acts of selfishness. They're acts of self-respect. They're necessary if you want to achieve anything meaningful. Think about it. When you're too nice, when you're constantly putting other people's needs ahead of your own, what message are you sending? You're telling yourself and the world that your needs don't matter. You're telling yourself that your goals, your dreams, your success are secondary to everyone else's. And if you keep doing that, you'll never reach the success you're capable of. You'll always be stuck, spinning your wheels, wondering why, despite your best efforts, you're not getting anywhere. Now, let's consider another point. Being too nice can also make you soft when it comes to accountability. When you're too focused on keeping the peace, on being liked, you avoid the difficult conversations that are necessary for growth. Whether it's in business, relationships, or your personal development, success requires accountability. It requires being able to look at a situation, recognize where things need to change, and take action. But if you're too nice, you're going to avoid those tough conversations. You'll let things slide because you don't want to upset anyone. You'll tolerate subpar performance, whether it's from yourself or from others, because you're too afraid to rock the boat. This is where being too nice can really damage your success. You can't hold people accountable if you're constantly worried about how they'll feel. You can't hold yourself accountable if you're always looking for the easy way out. Success demands high standards, and sometimes those standards are uncomfortable. Sometimes they require you to call someone out, to have a hard conversation, to say, this isn't working, and we need to fix it. But if you're too nice, you'll keep letting things slide. You'll keep making excuses, both for yourself and for others, and in the process, you'll let opportunities slip away. You'll let mediocrity creep in, and once that happens, your success is at risk. Tell me, how many times have you avoided a difficult conversation because you didn't want to seem harsh or unkind? How many times have you let something slide, thinking, it's not worth the trouble right now? Being too nice will make you a master of postponing problems. You think you're maintaining harmony, but in reality, you're delaying the inevitable, and that delay will come at a cost. Success is built on the foundation of discipline and high standards. If you let things slide because you want to be nice, what you're really doing is allowing things to unravel slowly. Maybe it's in your business. You see an employee consistently underperforming, but you don't say anything because you don't want to seem too demanding. Or perhaps it's in your personal life. A friend or family repeatedly oversteps your boundaries. And instead of addressing it directly, you smile and nod. But what happens over time? Those small slips add up. In the case of your business, you're losing efficiency, money, and credibility. In your personal life, resentment begins to build. Being too nice can keep you stuck in this loop of avoidance and complacency. You tell yourself you're being kind, but deep down you're afraid. Afraid of the confrontation. Afraid of the discomfort. Afraid of rocking the boat. But here's the thing. Success requires that you rock the boat sometimes. Success demands that you face those tough conversations head on, because only by addressing the issues can you grow, can you improve, can you move forward. When you're too nice, you weaken your own standards. You start tolerating things that deep down you know aren't acceptable. Why? Because you don't want to make waves. You don't want to come across as too strict or too rigid. When you lower your standards for the sake of being nice, you lower the quality of everything around you. You lower the quality of your results, the quality of your relationships, and ultimately, the quality of your success. I'm telling you, there's a reason why the most successful people in life are not afraid to set high standards. They understand that excellence requires it. They know that if you're going to achieve anything worthwhile, you have to demand the best from yourself, from your team, from the people around you. But when you're too nice, you're afraid to demand the best because you're afraid it might offend someone or it might make you seem unreasonable. Here's the truth. Success is not about being nice all the time. It's about being fair, being firm, and being clear. It's about understanding that the pursuit of excellence requires discipline, and sometimes that discipline is uncomfortable. It requires that you hold yourself to a higher standard, even when it's tough, even when it's unpopular, even when it means saying no or delivering feedback that might sting. Here's another major way that being too nice will destroy your success. It's when you confuse kindness with weakness in leadership. See, leadership is about making the right decisions, not the easy ones. But if you're too nice, you'll often find yourself choosing the easy road, thinking it will keep people happy. You might hesitate to make a difficult decision because you don't want to upset the team. Or you might avoid setting firm guidelines because you want to maintain a friendly atmosphere. But here's the problem. People crave strong leadership. They want someone who will take charge, set the course, and make the tough calls when necessary. If you're too nice, you can end up compromising your leadership by trying to be everyone's friend. But leadership isn't about being liked all the time. It's about being respected. It's about guiding your team, your organization, or even yourself toward a higher vision, toward greater success. And sometimes that means making decisions that won't be popular. It might mean making a tough call that causes short-term discomfort, but is necessary for long-term growth. Think about the great leaders of history, the ones who made a real impact. Were they always nice? No. Were they always liked? Not necessarily. But they were respected because they made the right decisions, even when those decisions were hard. They didn't let their desire to be liked get in the way of doing what needed to be done. And that's a key distinction. When you're too nice, you let that desire to be liked drive your decisions, and as a result, you weaken your leadership. What does it mean to be a strong leader? It means being decisive. It means being willing to stand firm in the face of opposition. It means holding people accountable, including yourself. It means setting a vision and sticking to it, even when it's difficult. And here's the critical point. None of that is compatible with being too nice. If you're too worried about hurting someone's feelings, about being liked, about maintaining harmony at all costs, you'll compromise your leadership. You'll hesitate when you should act. You'll avoid confrontation when you should address issues head on. And over time, that erodes not only your effectiveness as a leader, but also the respect others have for you. They might like you, sure, but they won't see you as someone who can lead them to success. Another crucial part of leadership that gets destroyed by being too nice is accountability. See, people want to be held accountable. They want to know where they stand, what's expected of them, and how they can improve. But when you're too nice, you might shy away from giving that feedback. You might sugarcoat things, or worse, avoid giving feedback altogether because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But in doing so, you're doing them a disservice. You're robbing them of the opportunity to grow. And here's the flip side. When you're too nice, you also let yourself off the hook. You might make excuses for your own performance, telling yourself, I'll do better next time, or it's not a big deal. But success requires that you hold yourself to the highest standard. You have to be your own toughest critic. You have to look in the mirror and ask, am I really giving my best? And if the answer is no, you need to make changes. But if you're too nice, you'll avoid that honest self-assessment. You'll let things slide, and in the process, you'll slow down your own progress. Here's another way that being too nice can mess you up. When you're too nice, you attract the wrong people. You see, people who are too nice often find themselves surrounded by individuals who take advantage of their kindness, who drain their energy, and who contribute little in return. These are the people who latch on to you because they know you'll always say yes. They know you'll always, help them out, always be there for them, and always bend over backward to meet their needs. But these are not the people who will push you towards success. These are not the people who will challenge you, inspire you, or support you in achieving your goals. In fact, the opposite is true. When you're too nice, you often end up carrying people who should be carrying themselves. You take on their problems, their burdens, and their responsibilities because you don't want to seem selfish. But what happens? You get weighed down. You get pulled off course. And before you know it, you're spending more time dealing with other people's issues than you are focusing on your own success. The reality is, you need people around you who will lift you up, not drag you down. You need people who will challenge you, who will push you to be better, who will hold you accountable. And if you're too nice, if you're always saying yes to everyone, you won't have room for those people in your life. You'll be too busy taking care of everyone else's needs to focus on your own growth. And I'm telling you, that's a recipe for disaster. So, what's the solution? It's simple. You need to be selective. You need to be willing to say no to the people who aren't contributing to your success, who aren't helping you grow. You need to be willing to set boundaries to protect your time, your energy, and your focus. And most importantly, you need to surround yourself with people who will push you to be better, not those who will drain your resources without giving anything in return. Success is not about being nice to everyone all the time. It's about being discerning. It's about knowing when to say yes and when to say no. And when you master that balance, you'll find that the people who truly matter, the ones who will help you succeed, will respect you all the more for it. Because they'll see that you're not just nice, you're strong, you're focused, and you're committed to your own success.